Palin Sabe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Jiwa Pende Den Shula Kadrin Chempa Gone Jesunte Kusun Tujing Adub Sadu Sar Sanje Chudang Soji Chonam La Shamcho Badu Dane Chap Suji Dagi Jin Soji Pe Sunam Ji Trola Penje Sanje Dupa Shor Sanje Chudang Soji Chonam La Shamjo Badu Dane Chap Suji Dagi Jin Soji Pe Sunam Ji Trola Penje Sanje Dupa Shor Sanje Chudang Soji Chonam La Shamjo Badu Dane Chap Suji Dagi Jin Soji Pe Sunam Ji Trola Penje Sanje Dupa Shor Semjen Tamje Deva Dang Deve Judan Den Pa Jujik Dunga Dan Dunga Ji Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Deva Dampa Dang Mindalwa Jujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalbe Tonyom Chempola Nepa Jujik Semjen Tamje Deva Dang Deve Judan Den Pa Jujik Dunga Dan Dunga Ji Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Deva Dampa Dang Mindalwa Jujik Nyering Chadang Dang Dalve Tonyom Chempola Nepa Jujik Semjen Tamje Dan Deve Judan Den Pa Jujik Dunga Dan Dunga Ji Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Deva Dampa Dang Mindalwa Jujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalve Tonyom Chempola Nepa Jujik Ninto Chempa Paya Len Mantra Lodra Chempa Chukun Denizik Drupa Chempa Chamdra Chiyantan Lodsa Chempa Shabla Solvandip Nutu Chempa Kundra Seneche Kaje Chempa Lama Nyepase Sundur Chempa Drupe Jasen So Repa Chempa Shabla Solvandip Tekpa Chempa Rikcho Yonsu Se Shaja Chempa Topang Undurjo Tenle Chempa Kadan Yampadal Nigom Chempa Shabla Solvandem Tamba Namla Gupe Satabju Tubju Tensen Chonam Shabten Ching Tenpa Renchen Chochu Chepadang Chiktengele Chempa Japa Sho Jewa Kunto Yanda Lamadang Trame Chuchi Pala Long Chuching Sadang Lamji Yanten Rapsone Doje Changi Gopang Nyoto Sho
Good morning to all of you. Good morning. I hope you're all well. I'm wondering, did you all listen to Lama Yeshu Rinpoche? Did you join this morning? Yes, some of you. I see some of you did. So the last Sunday of every month, I don't know if you are aware, all of you, but the last Sunday of every month, Lama Yeshu Rinpoche has a session, online session. So we, I think we did send you the link actually. So he's in South Africa, and yeah, we're all spread all around the world, isn't it? And some of you are also from different countries. And still we manage to connect online, which is wonderful in so many ways. It's wonderful, isn't it? I used to think that, or I still think that, you know, when Akong Rinpoche was alive, and he would travel to Tibet, he would travel to other countries, right? All of you from other centers know, and who've been around for so long, you know how much time he spent traveling to all the different Samye songs in all the different countries, and then he would spend several months in Tibet. And at that time, we didn't feel separate from him, right? Like when he was 3, 4 months, 5 months sometimes in Tibet, we didn't feel separate from him as such, or separate when he was in another country. And then he died, and I thought, well, it's the same. Why should we feel separate from him? Even though he's separated from his body, we don't need to feel separate, because it's not really any different from the time when he was traveling to all the different countries, visiting all the different centers. Of course, it is different. Yes, it is different, because we cannot get in touch, we cannot ask questions, we cannot get responses in that sense, at least not in an email and a phone call. But there was that connection. The heart connection is there. The heart connection was there and continues to be there. And I feel it's the same with Lama Yeshu Rinpoche. He's in South Africa now, keeping all of us inspired and afloat and connected, while we are then also waiting for the next Akong Tulku to appear and to take his role and pick up the reins again in the future. So we're so fortunate to have that. We're so fortunate to have that connection and to have that, presence of Lama Yeshu Rinpoche to fill that immense gap that Akong Rinpoche left. And of course, it's not that he's just filling the gap. He is who he is. But without him, like also you heard him say, Lama Khaten has been calling him, and his family, his nieces have been calling him, and I'm sure many other people have also been saying the same, saying, look after yourself, please, Lama Yeshe, look after yourself, don't get sick, because we all need you, because he is such a pillar for all of us, such a center for all of us. It's like the mother and the father. When the mother and the father are gone, the children are bereft. So we lost our father, but we still have our mother. Isn't it a bit like that? For all of you who know both Lama Yeshu Rinpoche and Akong Rinpoche, who knew Akong Rinpoche, it's like that. They were like a father and a mother together. And actually the roles were slightly interchangeable. You know, we think of the father as being the tough one and the mother being the soft and gentle one. It's of course not always like that, but it was like when one of them was tough, the other one was soft, right? Could be, Akong Rinpoche might be hard on you and you feel a little bit hurt or a little bit upset because you didn't get the response you wanted, or you were told to do something you didn't really like to do. And then you go and see Lama Yeshu Rinpoche and he'll soften it up. And the other way around. I've seen both of those roles, and I've heard many other people saying the same. So now we're in a situation, we've lost one of our parents, but we still have the other one. And we're so fortunate that we still have that guidance and still have that connection, but still we also see what the world is like now, this sort of illusory connection that we have online. Of course, we all wanted to go back to being able to have the physical contact. is also important, but we are very fortunate to have that online illusory connection, which is a little bit more solid than the just purely heart-to-heart or mind-to-mind connection that we have with the teachers. At least we can see them, like this morning we saw Lama Yeshe, at least we could see he's looking well. That's so nice, isn't it, to see he's looking well, he's looking good, and he's surrounded by his Sangha who are really looking after him. So I feel it's wonderful. And if you were there this morning, you saw our little newcomer in Samye London, our little new generation, Meadow Yeshe. So there are many positive things going on. But let's continue with our text, because we have a lot to cover in a short time. And as usual, I'm not really that good at planning courses, to be honest, and I never know how long they will take, and they could take much longer. This, of course, could take a long time. But I've also seen that many people don't feel that comfortable with very long courses because they are not able to commit to long courses. So I'm trying to do this sort of middle way thing, and what we yes, the kind of idea that I forgot what I was going to say, something about the well, in any case, it's like it's not very long, but it could be much longer, yes. So what I wanted to say is that really out of these 4 dharmas, the 2 first ones are the most important for us. We of course need to learn about completion, and we need to learn about how to rest our mind in its natural state, and about enlightenment and emptiness, etc. But as we have seen the last 2 lessons, we need to have really strong foundation. If we do not have renunciation, if we do not have this recognition of impermanence, if we do not have some sense of application of cause and effect, if we don't have that integrated into the core of our being, then all the rest of it just becomes words, intellectual understanding. And we do need some understanding of the view, of course we do, but what is very clear is that unless we have the first steps of the process on the path, the following steps, we will not reach them. They just simply won't. It won't be possible. So for that reason, I feel it's okay to spend more time on the first, and then we have to breeze through the following. So let's carry on here. So our conclusion last time was this, basically the importance of impermanence, importance of the 4 thoughts. So now we're looking at the second of these 4 dharmas. It says, so the first one says, grant your blessing so that my mind may turn towards the Dharma. Lo chusu drowa shinchi laptosol. Then the second one says, chu lamdu drowa shinchi laptosol. Grant your blessings so that Dharma may progress along the path. Now that my mind has turned towards the Dharma, may my Dharma follow the path, follow the true path. May I not get sidetracked into all sorts of distractions. May I be able to stay on the highway that leads me to my fruition. May I not get distracted and pulled away. May I not lose my way on the path. That's what we're saying. Please bless me so that I have genuine progress on the path. So this is what we're looking at today, this second Dharma, which is about the application and about a direction, a sense of direction, where are we going, movement along the path, our destination. So where we have first established, we have turned, we have made that U-turn in our outlook. Before we were so confused and so involved and looking in all different directions of how to find genuine satisfaction and happiness. What is really my direction in my life? So looking all around and then recognizing this impermanence of all things that we were relying on before, and finding the teachings, we then made this U-turn, turned our mind to the Dharma, recognizing that before we were very unskillful, before we did so many things that really caused more problems than happiness. We made so many mistakes due to our ignorance and confusion that we only made our own situation worse. We did not understand how things worked. So now we are saying, after this recognition, we are saying, I really want to follow the Dharma. How can I progress on the path? How can I be sure to practice properly? How can I be sure that my Dharma is progressing in the right way? And so this is where then Gampopa says, now let me tell you what Gampopa says in these comments, like very short commentary. He says, for the Dharma to succeed along the path, for the mind to succeed, for the Dharma and for all this progress to happen, he says, for the Dharma to succeed as a path, for our practice to be the true path of progress, in addition to the practice of love, compassion, the mindset of cherishing others more than yourself, and the relative awakening mind, understand that every inner and outer phenomenon is a manifestation of interdependent connections, dreamlike and illusory, just like Zoom. Dreamlike and illusory, like Zoom. There's nothing really there. Only then does Dharma succeed as a path. So what Gampopa is saying is we need relative and ultimate bodhicitta on the path. This is the key to the progress on our path. The key to the progress on our path is developing this loving kindness and compassion, the relative and ultimate bodhicitta. The relative bodhicitta, which is this mindset of cherishing others more than yourself, relative awakening mind, and ultimate bodhicitta is understanding that all phenomena are dreamlike and illusory. Part of it as well. Every inner and outer phenomenon is a manifestation of interdependent connections. So he is telling us, talking about motivation, where before we were saying, in this turning our mind to the Dharma, we were saying, I'm going to give up being a slave to my own ego clinging. I'm going to give up being a servant to this self-cherishing, to always everything being about me and myself. This hasn't worked so far. This is what Lama Yeshu Rinpoche talked about this morning, didn't he? He talked about compassion, kindness. We need to develop kindness and compassion. He said, all of this thinking, all of this busy mind that we have, he says, that's actually not doing any good, because that is what has led the world to the state that it's in today, right? He said that this morning, for those of you who were there. He said, look around and see all of the problems that we have today, COVID, environmental problems, war, all kinds of issues worldwide. This is due to thinking and intelligence, but intelligence that has lacked understanding of what is right and what is wrong, and what is beneficial and what is harmful. So the more we think, if we have no wisdom, if we have no understanding and care and concern for others, and if it's based on selfish motivation of just wanting money or wanting financial progress, as sort of politicians talk about, I can't remember what they call it, this sort of growth. If that's the only concern, then it only takes us downwards. It doesn't lead to anything good. We need to have pure motivation of genuinely caring for others, but that needs to be backed up with understanding, with wisdom, with intelligence, proper intelligence of knowing what is harmful, what is good, what is the long-term, consequences of our actions. So motivation, developing a genuine motivation is essential for correct practice and for our Dharma to turn, for our Dharma to progress along the path. For the second Dharma of Gampopa, we need Bodhichitta. We need to. So Bodhichitta means this motivation of wanting to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, right? To relate to all beings as though they are our parents. To say that I am going to work on myself, I am going to practice, and I'm going to do everything I can to have a positive impact on the world. But not only simply positive, we're thinking long term. So even if in this life I can't reach enlightenment, then in future lifetimes, my goal is that long-term goal is I will reach enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I will be someone like the great masters that I know. This is my goal. I want to be like them. I want to be able to help others and have a good positive influence, because what would the world be like without them? We need great masters in this world. We need them for the inspiration and the positive hope they give us. So what last time I also quoted for you from Jamyang Chense Chuji Lodro, this Nyingma master who was from the 19th century, born in 1893. We will send you this little page of instructions on the 4 Dharmas as well. So what he says as part of this Dharma, he says, recognize sentient beings as your parents. Meditate intensively on love and compassion, and cultivate the supreme attitude of cherishing others above yourself. This is the instruction for progressing along the Dharma path. So, this is clearly, both of them are telling us if we want our mind to progress along if we want our Dharma path to really go in the right direction, we need to think of others. We need to give up all this self-cherishing and think of others. And so we will know when we ask ourselves, how am I doing? How have I been doing after all my many years of practice? Maybe some people say, I have been a Buddhist for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, however long. And maybe some people feel they haven't changed much. Maybe some people feel it isn't working. But then we should look at this. That is the key answer from the great masters telling us, if we want our practice to progress and to improve and to go in the right direction, we really need to focus on developing bodhicitta, relative and ultimate bodhicitta. See others as more important than yourself. So we talk about relative bodhicitta as this aspiration to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of others. And that we also sometimes talk about aspiration and application. Relative bodhicitta is aspiration bodhicitta and application bodhicitta. So aspiration is the mindset, developing that wish and aspiration and goal, and the application is, we need to do something. It's not enough just to meditate. It's not enough just to sit on our cushion. We also need to, in our actions, so we say body, speech and mind needs to be engaged. And we generally, the way we train in that is through developing in our practice, in our meditation, this unconditional loving kindness. Also, Lama Rinpoche talked about that this morning. Isn't it amazing? Every time he gives a talk, it's something completely related to what we are talking about in the course. Even though it's very short, he's just nailed it like that. So he talked about this unconditional loving kindness, what it means, and how we are not used to that. And he used that example of Christmas, how I think that's true. We have so much expectation when we give something to others. We give our Christmas presents, and we say, oh, my Christmas present is so small, or at least maybe in the past it used to be like that. So you were saying, if we don't get something back, when we give presents, we want something back, we expect something back, and if we don't get it, we will get very upset. We will get very resentful, and next year we don't give a present. So that is an example of very conditional loving kindness. And of course he was saying we should practice unconditional loving kindness, meaning practicing generosity. So all of the practices of a bodhisattva or an aspiring bodhisattva is contained within the 6 perfections: generosity, patience, right conduct, diligence, meditation and wisdom. And the generosity is the easiest one to practice. So he also encouraged us to give. Now is the time we should give. If we have too much clothes, too much food, too much of anything, there are many people in need, so we should give it to those in need. We should practice application bodhicitta. When we give, it means we are doing a good thing, we're doing a positive thing. Not for our own sake, but simply for the sake of doing it, for the sake of doing something good. So if we all practiced generosity, the world would look quite differently today, wouldn't it? It's actually unbelievable that there is such disparity or like a difference in the wealth in the world, when we see how connected we are in many ways, but then at the same time some people are so poor and some people are so unbelievably rich. How is that possible? How is that? It's so unacceptable, isn't it? But we can do whatever we can. So the way we train in this relative bodhicitta is in developing unconditional kindness, no expectations in return. In whatever small way we can do it, we try to train in it. And we try to inspire ourselves. We train in it also through the inspiration we receive from the great masters and from the teachings. That also helps us. So in our practice and in our practices, training such as Tonglen and also like Chenrezi, many practices, and in our aspiration that we have, our motivation before each session, we're constantly encouraged to develop bodhicitta in all of our Dharma study, Dharma practice, and Dharma contemplation. So we should do our very best to take that to heart. And then ultimate bodhicitta is shunyata, the nature of mind, the non-duality, the wisdom aspect, the understanding of emptiness, the understanding of the way things are, that there is, ultimately there is no one there to suffer. Ultimately, this non-duality is very dreamlike. And what did Gampopa say? Very dreamlike and illusory. So that's the ultimate bodhicitta aspect that we will look more at next time. So this freedom from duality, the recognition of the nature of mind and of all things. And that we generate also through our study and our training and our meditation. All the different aspects of Dharma, the more we engage, the more we will come closer to that recognition. And especially through the assimilation of the teachings on impermanence, because that will bring us closer to the understanding of emptiness. The more we contemplate impermanence and we see through that apparent solidity that we have created conceptually in our mind to all things, we will come closer to understanding no self and the illusoriness of all things. But we need great diligence for that. And we also need faith. we need some trust, we need some faith and devotion. So again, we need that connection with the lineage and with the lineage masters, because faith and inspiration arises through that. And it said that with faith we develop, like diligence arises, because diligence is not just kind of hard effort, like when we don't like physical exercise but we force ourselves to go to the gym. I'm someone like that. I don't like physical exercise just for the sake of it. Maybe some people really enjoy it, but we tend to think of diligence like that diligence is just hard work. But diligence is more inspiration. It has to be based on inspiration. You feel inspired, you feel joyful, you feel like fortunate, you feel really delighted to have met the Dharma, you feel delighted to have met the teachers, to have met the teaching. So all you have to do is think about the great masters, and you feel sort of like a flame. Your flame is burning brighter. It's like that. So that means our diligence, our application will become more easy and more smooth, and we will find it easier to apply ourselves diligently. So if we want to truly understand ultimate bodhicitta, non-duality, we do need great diligence. It won't come just by itself, but we also do need great faith. Like the Kagyu lineage have enormous emphasis on faith and devotion, because the mind opens up and becomes very receptive when we have devotion and faith. But this should not be blind faith, not blind faith where we don't question. Of course, in the Dharma we are encouraged to question, we are encouraged to analyze, we are encouraged to contemplate. And it's out of that contemplation, study, and experience through meditation that faith actually arises. It becomes as well as this inspiration that we see in the masters. So it becomes a healthy, organic growth of faith. And sometimes faith is compared to like an irrigation channel, like water and an irrigation channel that makes the crops grow. Without water, we cannot really grow very much in the ground. So we need faith to water our crops of all the seeds that we are planting. And all the seeds that we are planting is all the instructions that we receive. All the instructions and all the studies that we do, all of the Dharma that we intake. This is what we need to water with faith, so that through these instructions we grow a crop, and a crop, like Milarepa says, we need to thresh the grains of truth. The grains of the Dharma need to be threshed. We need to be harvested and threshed with this irrigation channel of faith, so that we can husk all the, husking the grains, or threshing, you call them threshing the grain or husking the grain. So that means through study and faith and study and contemplation, then we come to the heart of the teachings. We come to the heart of the teachings, which is this, where our mind turns and our mind goes in the right direction. We come closer to this bodhicitta, both relative and ultimate bodhicitta, which is the heart of the teachings. Ultimate bodhicitta of emptiness and relative bodhicitta of loving kindness and compassion. So that is like coming to this nourishing part of the grain of our crop. If we have been growing lots of barley or wheat, you need to take the outer hard shell off, and you come to that nourishing part in the center that we can eat and we can grow, or that we can, Milarepa also says, we can store it. We should store it in our harvesting storage place, so that we have real understanding and real sort of benefit. That means like when we receive instructions and when we study, we should not just leave it as words. This is also part of progressing along the path. Not just having lots and lots and lots of notebooks in our shelf and then we leave it. We just leave them there. We think, okay, yes, we've read that book or we've studied that book and then now we go on to the next one. We need to assimilate it. We need to sort of go over things again and again and not forget it, not to disregard it. Maybe even, it's not only about leaving the words on the page. Who knows, maybe some people have assimilated them through their course, but it's about not disregarding the teachings that we get in terms of my own personal application on the path. So I really need to practice both aspiration and application bodhicitta. I really need to do my best to apply the teachings in all my different activities in my daily life. So that's how we get the results, through this motivation. That's how we gain the qualities on the path gradually. It's a very long, slow progress. At least I'm speaking from experience. It's a very long, slow progress, but that is okay. We are not expecting to be enlightened. I'm not expecting to be enlightened in this lifetime. It's fine. If you are, that's very good. If you have that great motivation and inspiration, you think you can do that in this life, wonderful. Basically, we should do our best in this life, and we have many lifetimes, but we want to make sure definitely that we do our best in this life, because otherwise, next time round, we may not have such good conditions. We may not have all the right causes and conditions coming together for us to continue the path. So that's the important part. So in terms of, so I wanted to talk more about loving kindness and compassion. So this idea of loving kindness, bodhicitta, wishing others to be well, wishing others to be happy, it is compared to a mother with her children. How a mother loves all her children equally, I assume. Mostly when you look at parents, it's like that. They love their children, even the bad ones, even the naughty ones, even the disappointing ones, even the ones who give you lots and lots of troubles, lots and lots of problems. If you have problem children, the parents still care about them, even when they're grown up. So children means like you're a parent for life, isn't it? You will always care about your children from birth until death. You're a parent and they are your children. And whatever they go through, you go through it. So that care that a mother has for her children equally, this is an example of how we should all try to generate an unconditional loving kindness to all sentient beings, whether they are good, whether they are bad, whether they are kind to us, whether they are unkind to us, whether they give us problems, whether they give us hard times. Our motivation should be that, all sentient beings, ultimately they all want to be happy. Some are less skillful in how they go about it, but we all share this wish for happiness, and we all share the wanting to be free from suffering. So we should ourselves try and generate this motivation, training in bodhicitta. Now it's very difficult to love all beings equally. It is not easy, so we should just gradually we try to extend more and more. And we should be aware that attachment is quite different from this loving kindness that we talk about in the Dharma, in Buddhism. So I think attachment is very conditional, isn't it? When we are attached, it's very much a situation where we need something from the other person. We want something for the other person. It is The main thing is what we want. Clinging and attachment may look like loving kindness, but it is actually very different. So here, unconditional kindness, and then unconditional compassion as well, where we are acknowledging the suffering and the pain of other people, of other beings. And we focus on the fact that it is possible to be happy, it is possible to find inner happiness and joy. It is possible to decrease suffering. So compassion, this is like the wish for others to be free from suffering. Loving kindness is the wish for others to be happy, and compassion is wish for others to be free from suffering. So this is very different from pity. When we feel pity or feeling sorry for others. Feeling sorry for others is not really compassion. Feeling sorry for others doesn't have that quality of compassion that is very active and very engaged and sort of stepping out and doing what needs to be done to help others. Whereas pity and feeling sorry for others, it drags us down, it disempowers us, we don't feel really we can do much, we get overwhelmed, it disables us. So it is, again, it might look like compassion, but it is different. It is focused on ourselves. So, like as examples of this, we can look at His Holiness Dalai Lama, how he sees or he used to see on a daily basis thousands of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people, I don't know how many, but he would hear so many stories from all the refugees coming from Tibet, surely, all the different difficulties they have been through, loss of family, loss of home, etc., feeling homeless, and much more in the past, all the difficulties that the Tibetans went through. But he has always been able to maintain his own joy and his own sort of hope for the future. So I think with compassion, similarly Lama Yeshu Rinpoche, Akong Rinpoche, they give others hope to such a degree that it uplifts you. I think that's a very good example of compassion. Never mind what they have been through themselves, they have been through enormous suffering themselves, but they have managed to come out of it with great positive mindset and hope and positivity. And they don't get dragged down or discouraged by whatever happens around them, by whatever happens in the world, or whatever happens to their students or to the centers, all the different troubles and the problems that they probably hear regularly. They are not dragged down themselves. They are stably maintaining that pure, positive outlook, which is really the essence of compassion that enables them to do that. And the relative and ultimate bodhicitta. I think the relative and ultimate bodhicitta together will enable you to have that view. Because if you don't have also the ultimate bodhicitta, you will get quite discouraged when you look out at the world. You will feel sad and feel hopeless and feel powerless. But with those two together, you don't lose hope and you don't get pulled down, and you maintain that pure view of compassion, loving kindness, compassion and emptiness, illusoriness of all things. So I think that's very important. Not to get, we should not equate sadness with compassion. Sadness and compassion is not the same. We should not allow sadness and discouragement to overwhelm us on the path. Don't allow yourself to feel discouraged about your own path, about your own situation. You should encourage yourself. You should look at what you have achieved and what you have accomplished and encourage yourself in that way. That's part of like rejoicing. So rejoicing. I think courage is part of it as well. It gives you courage when you have that view. But so rejoicing is important. This is sort of part of these 4 immeasurables, isn't it? Loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So rejoicing, that's what we also need to develop on the path. That means rejoicing in all the positive that is happening in the world. And that means look at what you have accomplished yourself. Ask yourself what you want to accomplish, and ask yourself what you have accomplished. Tell yourself that you have done this, you have done retreats, you have done practice, you have engaged in many positive activities in your life. There are many, many good things that you can look at. So your behavior has changed. Maybe you are less angry than before. Maybe you are less uptight than before. Maybe your aspirations and your activities have also improved. You have done practice. You have engaged with, the generosity and patience. You have less self-involvement. You're less selfish. You're able to think more of others. So rejoice in all the positive in your own life. Feel happy. So inspire yourself about the changes that have occurred in your own life. When you look back in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, your life is different from that time. Think about that, and where did I get to from 30 years from now to here? I think that is really wonderful. I feel happy about the direction that my life has taken. I have not done too badly. This is a good way to encourage yourself and to make yourself feel joyful and positive about your own path. So we should do, as well as looking at the things we need to change and the weaknesses we have, we should also look at the positive progress we have made. And in that way we feel uplifted and encouraged and inspired. So we do that without pride, without arrogance. Rejoicing in your own progress doesn't mean that you're being proud. It's different from pride. Pride and arrogance is where we are putting ourselves above others. Here it is simply you're encouraging yourself, and it's the source of inspiration. And then you can think of all the great beings, that what they are doing, all the masters, and you can simply rejoice in their great activity. It doesn't have to be only Buddhist masters. All the great beings in the world who are working for the benefit of others. Think of that and rejoice in it and feel happy and say, may it continue. May there be many more like that. May I be able to do similar good activity and actions for others. So that is the action of rejoicing, and like you say, what looks like rejoicing is frivolity. It's not frivolity. Like sometimes we just sort of get a little bit carried away, but that lacks mindfulness and depth. But simply, it's a very simple mindset of just being happy at the good and positive that others are doing, that I have done myself. And then of course these 3, loving kindness, compassion and rejoicing, need to be directed towards all beings. So this impartiality, equanimity, meaning that we try to regard all beings like our child, or like our mother, or however we feel like this positive connection, that we are connected. This impartiality that doesn't distinguish between friend and enemy, and that isn't easy. So we should gradually extend. But in our way of thinking, we should recognize this. This is also essential in the Buddhist teachings of Buddha nature, that we all have the potential. Every single living being have the potential for this perfection. So for that reason, we should really embrace that view of all beings being like our mothers. The central motivation of bodhicitta, that all beings want to be free, all beings want to be free from suffering, and all beings have this ability to free themselves from suffering due to the innate potential of Buddha nature. So there are many different examples given of this Buddha nature in the text, such as it's like a grain inside the husk, the soft grain inside a husk, like I mentioned before. It says the husk is like anger, the hardness of anger that's covering up our Buddha nature, hard shell or hard shell of ignorance. Actually, that example is of ignorance, and it said like a treasure in the ground where it's covered by mud. So this mud is all of our obscurations, is covering our Buddha nature, our potential. Or like honey in the center, or like honey that is surrounded by bees, and bees can be sometimes quite angry if they get disturbed. So this is an example of anger, how anger can be obscuring. This sting of anger obscures us from experiencing, uncovering this Buddha nature. Or a golden image inside a mold, a clay mold. That's also an example of all these obscurations, our latent sort of traces of kleshas. They obscure our Buddha nature. So all of those are the things we need to purify, but every sentient being have this inner potential of Buddha nature, inner potential of perfection. So there is no ultimate, there is no friend or enemy. We're all Buddhas from that point of view. We all have this Buddha nature. So we can't judge others as being unworthy of bodhicitta. That's the key point. Like if we're saying, now Gampopa is saying in terms of this second path of turning or making the Dharma part of the path, making sure that our Dharma progresses along the path, and to do that, we need to practice love and compassion and to recognize all beings and our parents, to cherish others more than ourselves. So to progress along the path, we need to truly believe that all beings do have that pure, essential, pure potential and Buddha nature. And so that we cannot judge others as being unworthy of compassion and loving kindness and compassion. There's no one who's unworthy of our compassion. And we also, when we think of impermanence and change, we also see that, those who we feel our enemies, or we feel we would consider people who harm others, etc. Behavior, we see everything is temporary. Behavior is temporary. Appearance changes, qualities of a person change, afflictions change, our anger or our negative emotions they change, different causes and conditions coming together change. So when we look at all of that, the constant change, and when we look at who we were before, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago, similarly other people, what they were like 10, 20, 30 years ago, what they will be like in the future, there's no solid friend or enemy to be found there. What we just have to look at is this genuine shared need and wish that we all have to be happy and to be free from suffering. And that everyone suffers equally in terms of we don't want, when something harmful happens to us, we suffer. So whatever I experience in terms of loss of my loved ones, for example, others will feel similar pain when they have loss of their loved ones. So we just have to put ourselves in their shoes and saying like, if I was born in the causes and conditions that others experiences, I would be like them. This would be me. This person, if I was born in that situation, this would be me. So you are just like me. Others are just like me. We all want to be happy. So this is how we should think in order to generate this bodhicitta, loving kindness and bodhicitta, and not to develop, to be sure not to have indifference, not to develop indifference to others. I think that's maybe covers the different points. So we need to remember, and we need to look at our own motivation. We need to generate and work on our own inspiration and our own attitude and our own recognition of the sameness of all beings, and so developed appreciation for our own situation, for the situation of others, and then just sort of analyze our own, our own motivation, and try and really encourage this to grow in all the different methods that we have available. So I think we've covered enough. I don't think there was any questions this time. Maybe there was. Sorry, I don't have your questions with me here. So we will look at it next time. We'll do the dedication now. Have a good week ahead, and we'll see you next week, for that's the last session. So here we are. Yeah. Sunam di tam che si pa ni tom ne nye pe janam pam che ne che ga na je pa la tu pa ye si pe so le do wa do wa jo sam jo sem ne Rinpoche ma che pa nam je jo che pa nyam pa me pa dam kone kondu pel wa jo ke wa de ye nyo do da sha ja jen po drop jo ne do wa che cha ma le pa te ye sa la ge pa jo